Where do you come down on this issue? Is boycotting a visit to the White House something that you would support, or is it something athletes should stay away from?
It's totally in their purview to express themselves any way they possibly can. I think what's interesting about this particular conversation is, and I'm listening to you and Matt discuss, is this is a visit to the White House. This is similar to going to Disneyland. This is not in their contract. This is not a part of any sort of obligation to the game. This is a narcissistic move that was done by presidents to show that they have a sports affiliation or a sports bent, whether it's the UConn women's basketball team or an NFL team or a baseball team. This was created by presidents to make themselves look like they're in touch with American sports. There is no obligation on the side of an athlete to show up or not show up. I think what's interesting here is that that everyone's talking about it, and I think that's the power of the position, the social position of an athlete. He's not making any sort of major protest. He's not kneeling during the anthem. He's just decided that he doesn't want to go to the White House, and because he has an opinion about how he feels about the president. That's totally his right.
So, Don, if you were advising an athlete who was thinking about boycotting this event and this visit, what would you tell them about the potential pros and the potential risks?
Well, I think obviously when you listen to Matt's perspective, I think that's a very real feeling that people have, that as an athlete, you suddenly give up your right as an American citizen to freedom of speech and expression. And I think that's a very slippery slope for our culture. And I think where there's more of a challenge here is not going to be to the athletes. The challenge is going to be to owners and to the people on the other side of the table in free agency who are going to have to start making decisions that they will only want athletes who are going to be silent and catch the ball and shut up. And then the owners are going to have to make a decision. And I think this is not something that's just a flash in the pan. The more we talk about this, and the more you all talk about this, and this has steam on Twitter and in the public eye, the more athletes are going to take this position. And the owners and the fans are going to have to make a decision about whether or not the games are worth it for them.
You know, Don, we had a list up of some of the notable athletes who have boycotted visits to the White House before. We know that it's pretty few and far between, that we've never seen whole teams do it. It's really been the exception and not the rule. Do you think we're going to see athletes boycott the White House more often now that President Trump is in office and he has already been so divisive just in his first few weeks?
I don't think that athletes are any different than any other American citizen. They're watching the news as well. They're watching the election. They're watching the debates. They're listening to the rhetoric. This has been the most divisive 3 weeks. I mean, this is supposed to be the honeymoon period in Washington for a new president, and it's been actually quite frightening for a lot of people. And I'm not talking about people like NFL players. I'm talking about people, members of Congress are wringing their hands with some of the things that are coming out of this White House. So I think that this is an extraordinary time that is happening in Washington, and I think that you're going to see more, not just athletes, you're going to see more people who are going to be hesitant and feel like McCourty said, I just don't feel welcome, or I don't feel like there's a place for me when I hear the rhetoric and see what the things that are going on and coming out of Washington. I don't think we're making this a point about a couple of football players, but they are representative of the American citizen.
We know one person who would accept an invitation to the White House, Mr. Matt Stryker, ladies and gentlemen. Listen, Don McPherson, CEO of McPherson Enterprises, all the great work that you've done, educational programs that you've implemented all over colleges and universities and helping children and athletes navigate these tricky waters. Thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you all. Have a great day.
You too.